Sure, the Galaxy S26 Ultra might boast that smart-ass privacy screen and actual fast charging and loads of other great features. But if you actually want one, you'll have to take the pliers to Grand's gold teeth, and not everyone wants to spunk a fortune on an absolute mega twat. Now, if you prefer more compact devices, or just not having your savings account absolutely molested, well, there's always the regular Galaxy S26. This delightfully dinky handset boasts many of the same great new features, while it's the only phone of the new Samsung S26 trio to actually enjoy a battery capacity boost. Although while it is cheaper than the Ultra, undoubtedly it still ain't exactly cheap. £879 it'll cost you, or just over £1,000 if you fancy doubling that storage to 512 gigs, quite the price bump. Although if you're quick, you can double that storage at no extra cost using Sammy's pre-order deals. Check out the link in the video description for more on that. I've been testing out Samsung's Galaxy S26 for over a week now, so here's my full review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that old notifications bell. Cheers! Now for this generation, the Galaxy S26 has slightly expanded from 6.2 inches to 6.3. That's upped along by slightly slimmer bezels than before. So it's certainly pleasingly compact compared with most other flagship phones in 2026, and just as many as that Xiaomi 17. I do love slipping my SIM in a mini smartphone like this. It's just a joy to use. Easily the best hand feel of the Galaxy S26 series, although admittedly that is kind of like saying Jaws 1 is the best of the Jaws films. Despite the completely flat edges, flat back and mostly flat corners, still feels nice enough to grip. It slips into a trouser pocket with nary a struggle. And no real surprises with the construction of the Galaxy S26. You've once again got an aluminium? You've got an Armor aluminium frame and a bit of Victus 2 glass around back and around front as well, sadly. Still bugger all anti-glare Armor 2 outside of the Ultra model. As usual, IP68 dust and water resistant, and you've got a small selection of rather lovely colours. You got the standard white and black, of course, plus a lovely gentle sky blue model, which really does relax my soul whenever I stare at it. At the very least makes me less want to punch walls hard. And then there's that cobalt violet hero model as well, which is a really nice shade, but yeah, he's got the boring black, unfortunately. And a couple of online exclusive colours as well. But anyway, so far the Galaxy S26 seems reasonably durable. I've had it stuffed in my pants in the same pocket as a couple of other smartphones at the same time while I was bugging around doing camera comparisons. I've been chucking it into bags, absolutely zero respect, haven't had a case on it the entire time. And it's still, as far as my knackered old peepers can see, 100% blemish free. Not even a snifter of a scratch anywhere on those edges or the screen or anything. And thankfully that paint hasn't started to rub off anywhere like it did on my bloody Ultra model. As always, Samsung's ultrasonic fingerprint sensor is an absolute joy to use. It's comfortably positioned, not wedged away near the bottom. Super responsive, as you can see there, rarely fails, even if your mitts are super moist or sticky or gunky. And then once you're in there, it's a good bit of Android 16, absolutely smothered by Samsung's own OneUI version 8.5. As usual, absolutely stuffed to the tits with loads of Samsung's own apps and services. And if you tend to use Google's built-in Android apps instead, well, this is a minor annoyance because Samsung heavily tries to steer you onto its own contactless payment system, its wallet, its own smart home goodies, its web browser, etc. And of course, the old AI repertoire has expanded in this version of OneUI, so now you've got even more tools stuffed in there, including a bit of Now Nudge. What this basically does is reads whatever's on your screen, tries to clock what it is you're trying to do, and save you time by steering you in the right direction or serving you up relevant info. So for instance, you've got a friend who messages you on WhatsApp to say, hey, do you want to get absolutely face drunk at 8 PM tonight? Now Nudge can check your calendar, make sure there's no schedule clashes. However, I have discovered this past week that you do need to be using all of Samsung's apps and services for this to function. It won't work, for instance, if you replace the Samsung keyboard with Gboard, as I always immediately do. And also, it doesn't always understand a message and then feed you the relevant information. Everything has to be worded just so, no slang or abbreviations or anything. Now, hopefully this will evolve over time and actually become a lot smarter and more useful, but right now I find it's about as helpful as that Pixel Q shenanigans. But one of the best new features by far here in OneUI version 8.5 is the call screen. And don't know why it's taken quite this long for it to arrive on Galaxy smartphones, but it's an absolute smasher if you do get a lot of spam calls and just random twats ringing you up that you can't be bothered to deal with. This can automatically screen any mystery calls. The person on the other end has to say who they are, why they're calling, and then this is presented to you in text form. You can decide whether to have a chinwag or tell them to piss off. As always, of course, the actual quality of the text translation of what the other person is saying can vary depending on accents and also just the general quality of the connection, but at least it gives you an idea of who's calling. If it's just a bloody automated robot thing, it can just save you a lot of time and aggro. You get a whole bunch of other new bits as well. Screenshots are handled in a smarter fashion now. You've got audio eraser for the likes of YouTube. But anyway, I'm working on a tips and tricks guide showing off all of the best new bits in OneUI 8.5 here on the Galaxy S26 series, so go check that out if you want to know more. And overall, I've got to say my Galaxy S26 has been pretty well behaved. A couple of wee slightly dodgy moments, like for instance Netflix just froze on me one time, just swiped it away, started it again, it was fine. So touch wood, seems pretty stable. And of course, yes, the Galaxy S26 might be pretty pricey, but at least you get 7 guaranteed years of OS updates and security patching, so plenty of support on the horizon, as much as you'll get from any other rival out there. Now that 6.3-inch dynamic AMOLED display hasn't really changed up much at all from previous generations. Might seem a bit too dinky to really enjoy any cinematic fare on the move, but I was happy enough watching movies on this thing. It is a Full HD Plus resolution panel, unlike its Quad HD siblings, but the visuals are perfectly crisp as it is a smaller panel. And that does mean that some of those Plus and Ultra features are missing here on the Galaxy S26, like Pro Scaler, for instance. That works by upscaling visuals to a closer to Quad HD Plus resolution sort of quality, so having it on here would be about as pointless as tits on a Volkswagen. Got some cracking contrast, full HDR10 streaming support, pretty poppy colours overall. There's been a lot of Reddit rage about the fact that it's not a 10-bit panel, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyway. And chances are that's only really going to bother you if you do a lot of intricate photo editing, for instance. You really have an eye for the colour details. And yeah, no anti-glare finish sadly, but it is easily bright enough for clear visibility and bright sunshine, which I did actually experience this week by leaving the UK. And actually, to be fair, it's been quite bright and sunny here in Blighty as well. I don't know what the bloody hell is going on. Can actually see the sodden sky again. But yeah, it's only if I was trying to watch a particularly murky scene on Netflix or Disney Plus or something that I really struggled with this display, otherwise perfectly bright enough to see everything that's going on. It's LTPO tech again, so the refresh rate scales from 1 to 120 Hz, but as usual, crap PWM dimming compared certainly with a lot of other flagship rivals, so if you are sensitive to that OLED flicker, I'd say look elsewhere. And also, well worth pointing out, there's no privacy display tech packed on here either. That is Ultra only. In fact, the Ultra's got all the best stuff, got the anti-glare finish and everything, whereas this is just a perfectly nice and lovely everyday bog standard smartphone screen. And the S26 might be pretty dinky, but the stereo speaker setup actually packs a decent punch. You've got quite loud audio when you max out that volume. The clarity stays pretty strong, not too much distortion at all. That top speaker isn't actually CAC, so you get some reasonably balanced audio as well. And you know, it's absolutely fine for you, but a YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus. If you're going to listen to music, I would absolutely say, you know, connect a pair of Bluetooth headphones or a speaker or something that's not quite that good. And speaking of which, the Bluetooth streaming's been absolutely flawless as well, no issues there. And when it comes to the performance here on the Samsung Galaxy S26, well, that's where this review kind of splits into a choose your own adventure type situation, because if you happen to be living in Trump land, where you'll have the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy running the show here, strong contender for clunkiest chipset name of all time, but also an absolute banger. I tested that one out in the Ultra model and flawless Wuthering Waves performance, so hopefully would be the same here in the more mini S26, as long as it doesn't get too hot and toasty. Unfortunately, you are going to have to go watch one of them American reviewers to find out all of that. You know, perhaps not, unfortunately, to be fair. A lot less cursing and weird accents and sweating going on over on that side of the pond. Whereas here in Blighty, the Samsung Galaxy S26 is actually powered by Samsung's own 2nm Exynos 2600 chipset. And that is backed here in this model by 12 gigs of RAM. Everyday running still perfectly fine here on the Galaxy S26, and I did smash through a good bit of Wuthering Waves action this past week as well. Pumped up those graphics settings so they're on the top levels, full 60 FPS action and everything. And then I mostly just kind of dicked about doing random side quests because I'm stuck on the main mission here because frankly I don't know what I'm doing, which is a statement that could be applied to most things in my life. And the good news is the performance here was excellent. The frame rate stayed stable, didn't notice any stumbles or drops even when I was gaming for well over an hour on the Galaxy S26. You got that upgraded vapor chamber and a bit of TIM action, that's thermal interface materials. It keeps the S26 pretty cool under pressure. It did start to warm up a bit after about sort of 20-30 minutes, but didn't get any hotter than that, and I didn't notice any throttling. So yeah, bugger all complaints when it comes to the performance here on this Exynos 2600 model. Unfortunately, where I was far less satisfied was the battery life of this mini mobile. And that's despite the fact that the regular base Galaxy S26 is the only model in this year's family to actually get an upgrade for the battery capacity. It's now 4,300 milliamp hours. But of course that is still proper dinky compared with a lot of other flagships, a lot of other just general smartphones in 2026. And as a more demanding user, I simply found that I could not make it through a full day of use with a single charge of this mofo. And typically maxed out at around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, and that's just with gentle mixed use, bit of messaging, bit of web browsing, some Spotify audio streaming. But as soon as I started mucking around with the camera, if I did a bit of video chatting or indeed gaming, then that battery life just absolutely plummets. So if you are a more demanding user, you might be more tempted by the likes of the Xiaomi 17, for instance, which is just as beautifully compact, but boasts a 6,330 milliamp hour capacity battery, I believe it is, like 2,000 milliamps more than the Samsung. And that wee bleeder can make it through a full day, even with all kinds of shenanigans. And yes, if you are gaming non-stop on intensive titles like Wuthering Waves here on the Galaxy S26, you can expect approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes of action, and that's on a completely full charge, which is, for want of a better word, pretty bollocks. Now, if you do need to juice it up in a jiffy as well, you've got that super fast charging, as Samsung terms it, still a complete f***ing lie. It's mere 25 watt wired charging, and despite the limited capacity of this battery, still feels pretty ruddy lethargic when you're just trying to juice it up a bit before you bugger off for an evening out, just desperately hoping that it'll survive the entire night. And it's 15 watt wireless charging, and yes, you will need to slap on a special case if you want to do a bit of the old magnetic charging and all of that. And let's finish up, boy howdy, with a bit of a squint at the Samsung Galaxy S26's camera tech. And somewhat depressingly, it's the exact same camera hardware as the previous generation. You got your 50 meg main shooter, you got your 12 meg ultra wide, and you got your basic 10 megapixel telephoto shooter with 3x optical zoom. Of course, as well as the standard photo mode, you've got all the additional bonus bits, including a dedicated portrait mode. You've got a proper full-on pro mode, so you can dick around with the likes of the shutter speed, the autofocus, the white balance, etc. I just left it on the autophoto mode, and unsurprisingly, everything is captured in the usual Samsung-y way. You got warm poppy tones, which don't really look how stuff looks in real life. And as usual, the S26 often brightens images to reduce shadowing, which makes for less interesting contrast. Of course, a lot of people do prefer this iPhone-y style processor, and I guess it's more visually appealing, although personally I do prefer the more natural look and contrast, the more realistic images you get spaffed out by rivals like Oppo, Vivo and Xiaomi. In those evenings and more ambient light, the Galaxy S26 doesn't fill its metaphorical pants. There's less noise than with previous generations, although pictures can look a bit crunchy at times. But it is living, breathing, moving subjects which are the true Achilles heel of the Galaxy S26. Particularly fluffy subjects like our tripod here. I swear I managed to get more blurry shots of him than pictures where he's actually sharpened in focus. And some of these were actually taken when he was completely motionless. If he was actually moving at the time I hit the shutter button, well, chances are about 90% that the photo would have to be binned. Well, the Galaxy S26 is certainly more successful when it comes to the video smarts. You can once again, as usual, shoot up to 8K resolution footage natively here on the smartphone, otherwise 4K at 30 or 60 frames per second with HDR switched on. Now, I still love features like that smooth zoom, while you've got fresh new tools like horizontal lock, which is great if you're trying to move around and shoot at the same time. Should be particularly good for any action cam footage. Well, yes, you once again have that dedicated Pro video mode, so again you can mess around with all of the various functions, get a particular vibe, and yes, you do have support for log shooting, although there's bugger all support for the APV codec, unlike that Ultra model. And then last up, you've got yourself a 12 megapixel selfie camera slapped around the front end once again here on the Galaxy S26. This can shoot your mug at up to 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, again with those HDR smarts. It generally does the job absolutely fine if you are doing a bit of vlogging, moving and shooting, not a problem, as the stabilization is perfectly respectable, and it's great for your bit of video chats too. And there you go, my lovelies, that is my full final frank review of the Samsung Galaxy S26, a smartphone which is delightfully dinky, boasts impressive performance and some pretty decent new features, but unfortunately battery life is bollocks, camera tech less than impressive. It's certainly the Ultra that has experienced the more Samsung love for this generation, which is not too surprising. Now, I gotta say personally, if I was going to go for a compact smartphone in 2026, I'd be a lot more tempted by that Xiaomi 17, where the battery life is simply bloody sublime. Not forgetting the Pixel 10a, of course, which I only just reviewed earlier this week as well, which, yes, it's pretty much a rebranded 9a, but it is still an absolute banger, a lot cheaper than this, and battery life is better. Anyway, that's what this withered old wank piece reckons, but it'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy S26 down below. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you!